Okay, in drawing my trend line, I drew the trend line. I forgot to label my axes, weight in pounds. This is height in inches. So the weight in pounds of high school boys, medium frames, randomly selected. So here's the thing. I adjusted my my numbers along the x-axis, and that's a little bit dangerous here because when you do that, it looks like it's going to go through like under 120, but when you adjust that, you have to do this a different way. I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to come up with the coordinates of 2 points. This one would be 64, comma, and it looks like about 135. And then this one here, let's say it's 65, comma, 140. Okay, so then my slope would be change in y, 5, over change in x, 1, so 5. So I have a slope of 5. Now my y-intercept, though, I want to type or plug in my y1, 135, and then my slope, and then my x1, 64. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for y in this equation. 5x, 5 times 60 is 300. 5 times 64 is 320. So then I have y equals 5x minus, so 320 minus 135 would equal 185. So that would be my trend line equation, and in function notation we have 5x minus 185. So that being said, now we have our trend line equation, and the rate of change, that number right there is 5. What does that mean? Well, the rate of change is the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y would be 5, up 5, and then the y changes in pounds, and the x changes in inches. So it's 5 pounds per inch. So one would say for each inch taller, let me write that, for each inch taller, one can expect to be 5 pounds heavier. Make sure that you always do it per, so the per pounds per the inch, 1 inch. If this were a fraction, like if you had, like, let's say 11 halves, you wouldn't say 11 pounds per 2 inches. You would say 11 halves pounds per inch. So for this one, if your friend weighs 175, that means that the y is equal to 175, and to predict how tall they most likely would be, you're predicting the x. So you have the y, you're trying to find the x. So all you have to do is plug in the 175 for the y, and then solve the equation for x. If you add 185 to both sides, that's 360. 180 and 180, or so that's 360 equals 5x, and 360 divided by 5. What's 360 divided by 5? That's 72. So one would expect to be 72 inches tall, therefore about 72 inches, 6 feet tall, who weighs 175 pounds. So that's what one would expect, how tall one would expect to be.